Hey friends, good day wherever you are at. Good to be here with you. Thought I'd do a quick update video. I'm recording this on a Tuesday, the something of April. I'm actually in Lyon, still Lyon-Perrache, about to take a high-speed train up to Lille in the north of France, and then some friends are going to come and collect me and drive me over the border to Belgium. Hey, in a moment, I just want to share some thoughts. I've been working on a message I'm going to preach this weekend, all about our emotions and what God wants for our emotions. How should we live? How did Jesus live emotionally? How should we live emotionally? So I just want to do a little mini version of that in a moment. Again, if you're new to my YouTube channel, please do hit the subscribe button down there. Check out the links below. Probably the best way of keeping in touch is our email newsletter that goes out once a week. Be great to have you that on there, and we give a free 3-hour teaching on living from the secret place whenever anybody signs up on our newsletter. Boom. Alrighty, that's my ads. I'll have a a couple of other videos coming out later today as well. One of my freedom series. I think today I've got one on freedom from death, which sounds interesting, but and some Q&A out later. So lots of videos coming out today. Come on, let's talk about emotions for a minute. So I'm in a series where I'm talking all about God bringing us into the freedom that is ours, that is our birthright. The freedom Jesus died to give us. Galatians 5:1 says it's for freedom, for the purpose of freedom, for the reason that we would live free, that Christ has set us free. Again, there's so much in that verse. The second conjunction is Christ has set us free. It's an interesting thing, but whenever you're trying to get free, you don't believe you're free. Pause, Sila, drink strong espresso. We actually need to start from the point that we've been set free. It's a bit like we were slaves and we've been released. We've come out of Egypt, we're off the plantation. Now our challenge is to learn to live free. And real quick today, I've just been musing and thinking, how does God want us to live emotionally? What should the Christian life look like emotionally? As I look at the Christian world, I see a few answers. I see a lot of the Christian world, frankly, that are just echoing the message of the world regarding our emotion. Basically, the world says there is no God and Freud is his prophet. And we're just sort of echoing Freudian psychology. And again, I'm about 95% this, but so often we end up kind of drugging people or giving people what the Rolling Stones sang years ago, mother's little helpers, to get you through the day. And again, if you need some help getting through the day, I don't have a theological problem with that. I have a practical problem about, are you getting the help you need? How long will you be on these pills and all that? So I'm not criticizing that, but I don't think that's God's answer. I don't think Jesus lived that way. There's a branch of the church for years that's basically said, just deny your emotions, kind of like, man up kind of thing, and just don't, if you're sad, just push it under the carpet, and we're free, we're in Jesus. And it's like, if we pretend the problem isn't there, it will go away. And as many of you know, problems don't go away by brushing them under the carpet. You just get lumpy carpets. Most churches I visit have really lumpy carpets, and you keep tripping up over the dead bodies that were put there years ago. In fact, in my experience, depression is frozen anger or frozen frustration. So when you're in a situation when you're frustrated and you don't deal with it, you stick it in the fridge or under the proverbial carpet, so to speak, it will come back and whack you 6 months, 6 years, whatever later as depression. So ignoring something isn't a good thing. So often I see, especially in America these days, a version of what I call Hallmark theology. That may sound really profound, it's not. I'm talking about like the Hallmark channel, the Hallmark store, or Hallmark greeting cards. The idea of like cheesy shows made for kids, or little cards with bunnies on with little poems, and you may be having a rough day, but it doesn't really matter, because Jesus, all he wants to come and do is hug you and sit in your pain and go there. And that's not the Jesus we see in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So rather than even give you an answer today, my challenge to you is to think this: how did Jesus live in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John emotionally? How did he walk out his emotions? I don't think he denied them. I think he was really sad at times. Tomb of Lazarus. I think he's really angry at times, and yet without sin. Like when the He drove the people out from the temple. Ephesians 5, be angry, but sin not. I think he was joyful. Yeah. I think Jesus lived the emotional gamut that we do, actually. He was touched in all way as we are. I don't think he brushed his emotions under the carpet. I don't think he got a 10-gallon bottle of the wine from the wedding of Canaan and sort of doused himself full of wine until he could no longer, he lived in some happy stupor or some modern version of that. I don't think he came out with cheesy cliches. I think Jesus lived out his emotions, but he didn't allow his emotions to dominate him. He dominated them. And if you think about it, it's really interesting, but we tend to think of our emotions as us. When you feel something, you usually have a tendance, I'm in France, to think it's me. We're like, I feel this, rather than there's me, and right now I'm feeling this. If right now I would put my hand on I've got a wooden table here. Imagine I touched it and there was a nail there and I felt some pain. I would be in pain, but that's not in a way, emotions are the same thing to our soul as physical sensations are to our body. Hey, I'm gonna have to run soon because I've got a train to catch, but I want you to think about that. How did Jesus live emotionally? What does it mean to feel, the full gamut of emotions, but not be dictated by them? And here's my very last thought to you today. Sin is really emotional. Temptation has no mass. What I mean by that is, when you think about it, when temptation comes to you, it's really just a thought, a suggestion. It has no substance to it. It's very easy to flip away. But as soon as you begin thinking about the temptation, engaging with it in your mind, your emotions blow it up, and it suddenly has more mass than a hurricane storm on the inside of you. And so often you feel powerless against that temptation. What's really happening is you're not powerless against the temptation. You're just powerless against the emotions that got whipped up. 2 days later, you look back and you go, oh, it's really easy to resist that temptation. Why didn't I do that? Yeah, it's really easy to resist the thought of temptation. But once you begin engaging with it emotionally, you've had it. So I think the key is to learn to distinguish between the two. Hey guys, I've got a train to catch, got to run, but I'll be back more with some thoughts on this as the week progresses. Or join me this Sunday as I'll be speaking at this in Mass and Connecticut back in the US. Love you guys. Hit that subscribe button and bye.